Snow drifted quietly outside the cafe window, painting the city in soft white. Inside, a woman in a red coat sat alone at a corner table, her fingers wrapped around a cup of coffee that had gone cold. The lights shimmered gently, Christmas carols played faintly, but she wasn't listening. She was waiting for someone who was already 40 minutes late. The waiter had come twice to ask if she wanted to cancel the order. She simply smiled and said, "He'll come." She didn't know why she believed that, but something in her heart told her to wait. What she didn't know was that across the city, a man was rushing through the snow with a small boy on his shoulders, holding a gift bag that looked like it had been wrapped in a hurry. His coat was worn, his shoes soaked through, and his face flushed from the cold. He wasn't late because he'd forgotten, he was late because life, as usual, had gotten in the way. He was a single dad, and his son's babysitter had cancelled at the last minute. Still, he promised himself he wouldn't miss this chance. Not tonight. Not Christmas Eve. Her name was Claire. To the world, she was the CEO of a thriving company, confident and elegant, always in control. But tonight, she was just a woman who wanted to feel seen, not for her title, but for her heart. Her friends had set her up on this blind date after months of insisting she needed to live a little. She agreed reluctantly, expecting nothing, certain that love wasn't something people like her found anymore. The bell above the cafe door jingled, and a rush of cold air followed. She turned, and there he was out of breath, snow on his shoulders, a nervous smile on his face, and a little boy peeking from behind his leg. He froze when he saw her, embarrassment flooding his expression. "I'm so sorry," he said softly. "I didn't want to be late, but I couldn't leave him alone. I understand if..." She stood before he could finish, her voice gentle. "Don't apologize. Please, sit." The boy climbed into the chair shyly, clutching a tiny stuffed reindeer. Claire's heart softened instantly. As they settled in, something unexplainable filled the air, like the quiet peace that comes before a miracle. The cafe lights seemed warmer, the carols sweeter, they talked, hesitantly at first, then like old friends. His name was Ethan. He worked 2 jobs, fixed old cars during weekends, and had been raising his son alone since his wife passed away 3 years earlier. He hadn't planned on dating again but said, "I guess Christmas has a way of making you want to believe again." Claire smiled, but behind her calm eyes, she felt something stir, an ache she hadn't felt in years. She saw not a poor man, but a strong one. A father who loved deeply, who showed up even when it was hard. Outside, the snow thickened, and by the time they finished their coffee, the streets were nearly covered. The boy fell asleep against his father's shoulder, his tiny hands still clutching the toy. "We should go," Ethan said softly, trying not to wake him. "Thank you for not walking away." "Thank you for coming," she replied, watching him carry his son into the night. But as the door closed behind him, something inside her whispered that this wasn't the last time they'd meet. The next morning, Claire couldn't stop thinking about them. She went to work as usual, her mind filled with meetings and deadlines, but her heart wasn't in it. That night, she opened a small Christmas card she'd found left behind on the cafe table. It was from Ethan's son, it said, in a child's handwriting, "Merry Christmas, Miss Claire. My daddy smiled today because of you." She stared at it, tears forming. Days passed, and life resumed its pace. But fate had other plans. A week later, her company hosted a charity event for underprivileged families. She moved through the crowd, shaking hands, offering smiles, until her gaze landed on someone near the back, Ethan, wearing the same coat, helping serve food to children. He looked up, their eyes met, and the world seemed to quiet. "Didn't expect to see you here," she said, walking up to him. He grinned. "I didn't expect to be here either. My boss gave me an extra shift delivering supplies for this event. Guess life really likes surprises." They laughed, easy and familiar. The connection between them had only grown stronger. When the event ended, she offered to walk with him to the bus stop. They stood in the cold, watching snowflakes fall. "Claire," he said hesitantly, "I don't have much. But if you'd ever want to, see us again." She interrupted, smiling softly. "I was hoping you'd say that." Months passed, and what began as a chance meeting on Christmas Eve turned into something beautiful. They met often, sometimes for coffee, sometimes in the park with his son. She discovered that happiness wasn't about grand gestures or wealth, it was about moments like these, laughter in the cold, small hands tugging her coat, and a man who made her feel human again. The next Christmas Eve, 1 year later, they returned to the same cafe. The boy, now braver, handed Claire a small box wrapped in red paper. Inside was a simple keychain with 3 initials, C, E, and L. Claire, Ethan, and Liam. She looked at Ethan, eyes shining. "Does this mean?" He nodded, his voice low. "It means we're home now." Snow fell outside, soft and endless, just like the love that had quietly grown between them. And somewhere in that tiny cafe, with laughter mixing with the sound of Christmas bells, they finally realized sometimes the people worth waiting for are the ones who arrive late, but never too late to change your life forever.